Stop being brainwashed. By Inkunaj. Introduction. Many people live a life which they were not meant to live. They are exhausted by trying to achieve things that will never satisfy them. They run endlessly and try to be their false self, which is a mental self-image imposed and programmed by parents, education and society. They strive repeatedly to find the false self in a conceptual reality that has nothing to do with true reality. The false self is like a mirage that disappears as you approach it. Aiming towards this false self leads people away from living their lives fully and rediscovering their true selves. Reading self-help and psychology books, and attending self-improvement courses will not help you find your true self. Contrary to what you expect, they only reinforce your false self. They all operate on the level of the mind, where the false self is rooted. In fact, the true self is there, but you are blind to see it due to the many expectations of your false self. Your true self greatly resembles your unique childish character, because you were your true self in childhood, before parental, educational, and societal programming began. A person will find his or her true self when he becomes aligned or attuned to the intelligent field of nature, which took care of our evolution even before the mind or neocortex existed, as mind and neocortex belong to a later evolutionary period. Aligning yourself with the intelligent field of nature is the natural way of living. The teachings about the natural way of living are prevalent in the ancient wisdom of Taoist and Buddhist traditions. Thus, this book embodies aspects of ancient wisdom. Further, I like to refer to the natural way of living as being aligned with the intelligent field of nature. Because we humans like to pretend that we are intelligent beings, why not say that nature is intelligent too, as it has evolved life on Earth? Even if we believe that life is the result of random events, nature contains much experience and has a memory, so that it deserves to be called intelligent. We can learn from the experience of nature simply by aligning ourselves with it. There are two ways by which you can discover the intelligent field of nature. One method is through body meditation beyond the levels of mind and thought. This consists of connecting to the body consciousness that existed before brain consciousness. The other way is through analytical meditation, where we use our logical mind against the mind itself. Just like an electron and positron, anti-electron, annihilate each other in producing light, photons, two opposite analytical approaches give rise to present awareness. The rational, analytical mind simply cannot escape duality when there is no experimentation. In the center of duality, there is only consciousness, or beingness and seeingness. Only direct observation, which is a kind of meditation, has determined what is true in science, but even in science, there are opposing theories when direct observation is not possible. There may be countless opposing theories about a phenomenon that lacks experimental proof. These opposing theories indicate a weakness of the mind. In everyday life, where we are not scientists who engage in pure experimentation, and where daily events are very complex and interrelated, it becomes extremely difficult for the mind to judge correctly. The most intriguing thing is that the brain acts like a filter that selects information from reality that conforms to one's beliefs and filters out any conflicting information. The brain has an incredible capacity to create patterns of causality even with random events and then filter out what does not conform to the patterns it perceives. It is clear how weak the mind is in the absence of direct observation and how easily it can be brainwashed. By connecting to body consciousness and or by considering the opposite of any theory or something that cannot be observed directly, we can subjugate this mental weakness. In the end, we will share the golden approach for rediscovering our true selves, even without body meditation or analytical approaches. False and true selves. The false self is acquired from who you think you should be and whom others think you should be. It is the self that is constructed and programmed by parents, teachers, and society. This false self is a limited self, a self that is the product of a mind that has been brainwashed over the course of a lifetime. Your false self is a goal for you to achieve in the future that, in fact, you will never achieve. The false self is simply another concept in the conceptual world that is not the true reality full of colors. We become so identified with our ideas or concepts that we forget who we are. As long as you aim to achieve or to be this false or acquired self, you will be an object of suffering. The false self can be mentally constructed and fabricated easily. In other words, it is a byproduct of the mind. The mind and its product, the false self, cause you to live in the past and the future. This false self limits you from experiencing the full spectrum of reality. When we operate from the false self and mind, we limit ourselves to experiencing only a small part of reality, phrased differently, only with what we believe is in accordance with the prosperity of the false self. When you aim towards the false self, you can deceive yourself easily because the mind is a very powerful tool for creating a constructed reality where you are what your false self wants to be. However, whenever you face the true reality or for a moment notice the conflict between the false self constructed in the mental reality and true reality, suffering is the result. Trying to maintain the false self and dwelling in the constructed mental reality makes us vulnerable to brainwashing and manipulation. Being brainwashed or programmed is a favorite mental strategy used to satisfy your false self. But there is another self, the true self. That is who you really are and what you were meant to be. It existed before parental and societal programming. The superego imprinted on you mentally by parental and societal programming can prevent you from being your true self. Contrary to the false self, the true self cannot be perceived mentally, but can only be felt. It is beyond the level of the mind and the conceptual world because the true self is formless. It is the self that exists only in the present moment. It is your awareness that never changes. It cannot be programmed and brainwashed because it is at the level of awareness, which is beyond the mind. Because it is at the level of present awareness, or at the moment of now, you can discover it only by living in the now, by calming the mind and meditating on body awareness. The true self resembles your childish nature before you developed an ego and were programmed by society. Try to remember your childish nature, how you felt when you were totally free and joyful, when you had no preconceived notions of what was right or wrong, good or bad, beautiful or ugly. You interacted with other people with wonder, total ease and innocent openness. You were interested in all there is, and you felt safe, nourished and loved. You were living as pure awareness in the present moment of now. You can rediscover that true self by subjugating the programmed egoic mind, which lives only in the past and future. The mind can be subjugated by living in the now. A good tool to live in the now is to practice meditation, in which you go beyond mind and illusions. When you rediscover your true self, you unleash your inner genie and unlimited power to achieve what you were meant to do. The role of egoic mind and its derived false self is to inhibit you from living your life fully. When you are your true self, you do not need to work hard or perform a job that you do not like, but, on the contrary, you will find the right job, one that gives you pleasure so that it seems that you do not work anymore. You become valuable to society and society needs what you offer. When you reclaim your true self, you will understand, or more exactly, will feel deep inside the meaning of the following quote from Lao Tzu, an ancient Chinese philosopher and the father of Taoism, in pursuit of knowledge. Every day something is added. In the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less do you need to force things, until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. True mastery can be gained by letting things go their own way. It can't be gained by interfering. Let me explain the quote. You force things only when you identify with your false self, which is not you, but a mental image instilled by a lifetime of brainwashing beginning in your childhood. When you find your true self, you do not need to force things anymore, because you go with the flow of the intelligent field of nature, where there is coherence between your true self and true reality. Being in tune with the true reality helps you find your right place in the real world. While the false self requires endless actions to find its right place in the conceptualized world, the true self does not need to find the right place in the real world, because the real world and the intelligent field of nature itself will offer the right place for your true self. You do not have to force things for which you have been born to do. If you are forcing or struggling to do something, you have not found yourself or your true self. Brain consciousness and body consciousness. Body awareness. In terms of its evolutionary history, the brain is composed of three parts: the reptilian brain, limbic brain and neocortex brain. The reptilian brain, the oldest of the three, controls the body's vital functions, such as heart rate, breathing, body temperature and balance. The limbic brain records memories of behaviors and is responsible for a human's, or animals', emotions. The neocortex, the newest layer in the evolution of the brain, culminates in the human and two large cerebral hemispheres, where the human mind and conceptualized world reside. The cortex and its product, the human mind, is the last stage of evolution. However, when a part of the system becomes too large, it can create problems for the whole system itself. Excessive activity in the neocortex may interfere with other parts that are vital to body functions. This is why mental stress creates health problems. Too much neocortical activity indicates many conceptual ideas and thoughts. We become brainwashed by our consumerist society, by TV and the advertising industry, to desire a conceptualized dream world for our false self, which leads us to buy products that feed the subconscious aspirations of the false self. The neocortex becomes overloaded as it tries to achieve the conceptualized self in the conceptualized world at the expense of other brain areas that are responsible for vital bodily functions. In this way, we become distracted from the intelligent field of nature from which humans evolved before the neocortex existed. As stated earlier, there is an intelligent field in nature that creates and evolves living organisms. This intelligent field caused organisms to evolve from one-celled to complex, multicellular organisms. The human reproduces the entire history of evolution in the womb. During its 9 months in the womb, the embryo progresses through the stages of evolution from one-celled organism to an entire human. This intelligent field of nature also takes care of the baby during the first years. A little child is still his/her true self before societal programming begins. Then a false self is instilled in the child, which detaches him/her from the intelligent field of nature. Still, there are endless approaches to reconnect to the intelligent field of nature that may depend on the individual. In fact, your whole life revolves in such a way as to reconnect you to the intelligent field of nature and to your true self. All the suffering and unresolved fears seem to be repeated over and over in life. We seem to attract situations and relationships repeatedly that resonate perfectly with our most vulnerable feelings. The universe, or the intelligent field of nature, offers them to us until they become unbearable, at which point, we become aware of the false self. The moment we become aware of the false self, it falls away on its own. But the best tool to practice awareness is meditation through body awareness. Body awareness can lead to present awareness and the intelligent field of nature. They are not exactly the same, but are very similar. Total awareness is the awareness of yourself and reality as a whole, and body awareness is a part of total present awareness. I will divide the consciousness into two parts, brain consciousness and body consciousness. These two terms I have taken from the book, The Rainbow and the Worm, The Physics of Organisms, by scientist May Won Ho. According to her, body consciousness is distributed throughout the liquid crystalline matrix of the body. Body consciousness existed prior to the brain consciousness associated with the nervous system. For instance, animals lower in the evolutionary tree, like Hydra, which do not have a nervous system, are nonetheless sensitive and responsive and react to danger that threatens their life. Thus, they possess body consciousness. Thus, our body consciousness is the intelligent field of nature incarnated in the body. and by practicing body awareness or body meditation, you feel and connect consciously to body consciousness. By practicing body meditation, your brain consciousness, mind, becomes tuned with the body consciousness that is the incarnation of the intelligent field of nature, which exists only in the now. Body meditation, body consciousness, is simply a case of feeling the inner body or body parts, feeling the feet, legs, knees, back, neck, etc. without thought. For more on meditation, you can search the World Wide Web. Moreover, when you connect to the inner body or feel the inner body, you connect to what the ancient Taoist masters called Chi or life energy. It is thought from many studies that the Chi is electromagnetic in nature. All the ancient masters meditated on the body, which is why all of them throughout the ancient world shared a similar language when they taught and described the natural way of living. They all connected to the intelligent field of nature incarnated in their physical bodies. Undoubtedly, the teachings of various ancient masters differed somewhat, because the intelligent field of nature is converted or coded through our brain consciousness. However, anyone who learns to meditate on body consciousness and cultivates the present awareness understands that all ancient teachings emanated from the same source, that of meditation on body consciousness. The ancient masters learned the language of body consciousness or the intelligent field of nature and incorporated it into the external real world. They called that language the natural way of living. The natural way of living means to connect or to tune in with the intelligent field that also emanates from the outer intelligent field of nature. The intelligent field of nature is the same no matter where it is, inside our body or outside. We can learn its intelligence and language even by just observing or meditating on nature, all the animals, plants, and rocks in the world, and all the features, forces and processes that exist independently of people, such as the weather, the sea, mountains, reproduction and growth. This is another kind of meditation and approach to understanding the intelligent field of nature. Thus, it should be clear that the brain consciousness or mind should be in tune with the real world, not the conceptualized world, and the intelligent field of nature. When you connect with the body consciousness you begin to become master of the mind, you identify the conceptual world that is not real, and thus you rediscover your true self. In this state of awareness, you are not a slave of the mind, but the master of it. You cannot easily be brainwashed. This section appears to be merely philosophy as long as you do not practice awareness in the present. But when you become present and aware in the now, it no longer seems to be philosophy, instead, it becomes the natural way of living. Why self-help books do not work to rediscover the true self. Self-help books are not effective because they have nothing to do with your true self. On the contrary, they reinforce in you the false self and the conceptual world. You buy them because you want to achieve the aspirations of your false self. You are driven by the false self when you buy them. Your true self is unique and cannot be learned by reading, but only by living and experiencing. You buy self-help books to learn to do something you deeply do not want to do. You buy a self-help book to learn to do something that others and society want you to do. Let me tell you a deep truth. You will never learn something with which you do not resonate deeply. Do not waste your time. Self-help books only brainwash you further. Why school and education do not work in rediscovering the true self. The education system does not work because it does not teach you to discover your true self. Schools do not teach you who you are, namely your fundamental childish nature. They just add to your mind other layers of the conceptual world. They teach you things that you may never need. They brainwash you with regard to what society wants you to be. The educational system produces robots, not human beings. It needs to be reformed. If you are attending a certain university that you do not like, do yourself a favor, leave it and find another university or something else with which you resonate deeply. Perhaps you are attending a school or performing a job in order to satisfy your false self, so that you can tell others that you are a doctor or lawyer. Do not waste your time. You will surely leave it sometime in the future, better now than in the future. Why psychology cannot help you rediscover the true self. Psychology studies the mind from the outside, just as we study an area on a map. We can learn a lot from the map, but in the end we must face the territory and discover that we cannot orient as well as someone who lives in that territory. This is just an analogy, because the mind and its physical seat, the brain, is very complicated and complex and still a mystery to modern science. Imagine what can happen in a brain that is made up of 100 billion neurons. The best way to deal with mind is through the direct approach of cultivating awareness. Awareness is something that existed before the brain had evolved very far. Awareness is the source of being or beingness itself. Awareness helps subjugate the mind's illusions and the conceptual layers of an individual's mind and even the collective conceptual world. Eastern philosophies like Buddhism, Hinduism, and Taoism discovered the power of awareness thousands of years ago. Awareness enabled them to be the source of mind or conceptual ideas and thoughts and not the slave of the mind. Awareness is the source of free will, because it is beyond the level of the mind. At the level of awareness you are no longer a slave to thoughts, concepts and ideas, instead, you are their source. Someone confined to the level of the mind cannot have true free will, because the mind is programmed by parents, society, and the collective mind. Cultivating awareness does not mean not using our minds, because we cannot live without the mind, but it means to be the master rather than the slave of the mind. It is a mystery how awareness subjugates the mind and keeps you from being programmed by society. Brainwashing can only take place on the level of the mind. All ancient philosophers from India and China have the same language regarding the philosophy and natural way of being. As stated earlier, they all meditated and cultivated awareness. You cannot understand their philosophy of the natural way of being without meditation or without being connected with the intelligent field of nature. No university psychology or philosophy class can help you rediscover your true self and the natural way of living. The selectivity of the brain. The brain has an incredible ability to select information. It both absorbs and excludes information. The brain is just like a filter that absorbs only the information that conforms to its beliefs. Reality and information are infinite. Thus, in order to cope with the overwhelming amount of information, the brain must be selective. In other words, we see what we believe. This is the trick in the phrase, believing is seeing. Albert Einstein believed that miracles are every person's subjective choice. According to him, there are two ways to live our life, one is as if nothing is a miracle, the other is as if everything is a miracle. His saying has to do quite literally with the brain's selectivity or information filters. The way we interact with the outside world also depends on the information selected or filtered out by our brains. There is a concept called the DNA personality filter, which has to do with the selectivity of our personality and the way by which our unique filter processes information. Thus, generally, we tend to absorb only a portion of the information to which we are exposed, or we have a tendency to see only a part of the full spectrum of reality. Only an empty mind can see the full spectrum of reality, in all of its colors. For instance, if you filter the good things in life, then you will behave well towards it and consequently it will behave well towards you. Moreover, if you filter the good things in a person then you will behave well towards him/her and he will behave well toward you. If you see the bad things in a person then you will behave badly towards him/her and consequently he will behave badly towards you. Everything in reality is dual. If you believe in a certain doctrine, then you will consider blindly only the theories that support it and exclude those that do not. In other words, your brain will filter out what does not conform to your beliefs. Do not be offended, but the truth is that everyone is half-blinded. Only small children, who have not yet created information filters, have empty minds. But the emptiness of children's minds is not permanent because they soon become programmed by others. Only the ancient masters of Taoism and Buddhism achieved a permanently empty mind through meditation. Let me share a story of mine. In the beginning, I used to attend schools where I learned only about materialistic things. At that time, I did not believe in an afterlife and metaphysics. Then, in order to support and satisfy my false self, I went to the other side and began to read New Age books that changed my beliefs. But soon, the New Age theories and metaphysics no longer satisfied my false self. Then I decided to remain concretely in the center of the duality between materialistic and spiritual theories, as there is some degree of truth in both. It is very important to note that this book is not about New Age theories and metaphysics. Neither do I deny them. I agree partially with both materialistic and New Age theories. Let us take for example the concept of the afterlife. What proof can the rational mind find for the afterlife when there is no direct experimentation? To be honest, who knows for sure? Nobody. This book is only about the natural way of living and not about metaphysics. But one thing we can say with certainty is that the intelligent field of nature exists, because every day we see and touch the beauty it has created. Somebody could say that life is just a result of randomness. But whether it is random or intelligent design is just an interpretation. We can call it the random way of nature if you want. What is important is that we can feel and touch that design. How do we stay in the center of duality where there is seeingness, a direct perception of reality without dogmas? Whenever we encounter a theory, a thought, an opinion, we must find its opposite. We must argue for both poles of the duality of theories. Our place is in the center of duality. In the center of duality we are guided from our true selves beyond indoctrination. Emotional and logical brains. The brain can be divided into emotional and logical brains. The emotional brain is larger and more powerful than the logical brain. In evolutionary terms, the emotional brain developed first. Most of the time, the logical mind is controlled by the emotional mind and we are unable to see that. Most people, most of the time, make decisions and choices in life based on emotion and then justify them logically. Thus, we are guided by our emotions in life while we think wrongly that we have made the most rational choices. In fact, this is not a bad thing, but on the contrary, it is the right path to discovering the true self, because it enables us to become aware of our subconscious emotions. However, we should be aware of the emotional decisions that we have made in order to make the subconscious emotional issues surface into conscious awareness. Let us take a simple example relating to the emotional versus rational mind. If you feel emotionally attracted to someone, you will tend subconsciously to select only the good things about him/her and filter out his/her bad qualities. And if later, you are no longer attracted to that person for some reason, you will do just the opposite, and will see the bad things in him/her and filter out the good traits. Here we see again the principle of the brain's selectivity. In this case, it is better to apply the principle of duality, to see the good and bad qualities simultaneously. We must become aware and face both opposites. Nevertheless, it is difficult to be unbiased when an emotional issue is concerned. How to understand the center of duality? The great physicist Richard Feynman once said that the easiest person to fool is oneself, and as a result he argued that, as a scientist, one has to be especially careful to try to find out not only what is right about one's theories, but also what might be wrong with them. There are countless theories, ideas and opinions, and almost all of them have their opposites. Generally, the theories are built from a particular point of view and, as there are different perspectives, there are countless theories. But reality is infinite and therefore, no theory can embrace the whole spectrum of it. Today there are numerous books on the market. I have divided them for the purposes of this book into spiritual books and materialistic ones. Both categories are very consistent in their internal structure because there is no picture, theory, or model-independent concept of reality. Instead, there is only model-dependent realism. The rational mind needs models to grasp reality. But the models are not the reality, and the rational mind cannot escape the duality. Further, in a belief-dependent realism, the beliefs come first and the reasons for that belief come second. Thus, everything can be explained rationally in its internal structure, but this does not mean that it is true. To stay in the center of duality means to stay between them and not to believe them blindly, including both opposites. Even the authors who write those books doubt their own work. But, the book industry is so sophisticated that it offers interesting books that have great powers of persuasion. To avoid becoming brainwashed by such books, read both spiritual and materialistic books. It would be better to read none of them, but the business of information is so powerful that nobody can live without being affected. It is important to mention that there is nothing wrong with the information itself, but there is a major problem with biased information. We can cultivate remaining in the center of duality by practicing present awareness through meditation. Being present in the body without too many thoughts or theories is better because we furnish energy for the direct seeingness of reality. The main problem with education is that it teaches children to see the world in terms of conceptual ideas and theoretical definitions. Soon, as they grow up, they lose the ability to observe the world directly. As adults, many of them are good with theories but struggle with practicability. In the present awareness, we do not dwell on excessive thoughts, which are only an artificial constructed reality. We rely more on direct observation. Direct observation is more efficient when we have no personal preferences and no expectations of the false self. The conceptual mind works in mysterious ways, and we must be open-minded to see this clearly and let go of it to live freely. We must be willing to doubt our concepts and to look at them in a new way. We would be able to leave our preconceptions and become receptive, losing actual mental constructs and making room for others to enter. The best maxim against mental constructs is, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. I am not saying to have no mental constructs, because that would be absurd, but instead, to be the source of them and to let new ones come in. Even this maxim is a mental construct in itself. Do your research. For every concept, idea or theory, find its opposite and do not identify with the opposite but stay in the center between the two. Only when we stay in the center of the duality are we creators and masters of our own reality. At that point, we become the source of ideas. In the center of duality, we are not a fertile land where others embed their ideas and then reap the results for their own interests. If you do not find meaning in things or feel emptiness, do not worry, because the source of the universe, as Stephen Hawking implies in his book The Grand Design, is just the nothingness. When you feel the emptiness, you are in a creative mode and are in touch with the deepest self, which is present awareness or the source. Is this nothingness or cosmic consciousness? We think it is just a matter of interpretation. When we stay in the center of duality, we are the essence or the true self and access the pure potentiality that is creative energy. In the center of duality there is only beingness and seeingness. Searching for the truth. Everything in the universe is dual and is built in cycles within cycles. Large cycles are composed of smaller cycles. Every cycle needs at least two opposing forces in order to keep a dynamic equilibrium or motion. I think that the principle of cycles within cycles and the two opposing forces permeates everything from the microscopic world of electrons to the cosmological level of galaxies, including the psychological level of the human mind. This is an ancient idea from the philosophies of Taoism and Buddhism in China and India, where the opposing forces are called yang and yin. I still would like to keep this idea in my theory of being free of concepts and biased ideas. In order to keep the equilibrium of beingness we need to balance opposing ideas and thoughts, because if we have only one idea, theory or hypothesis without considering its opposite, we are not in the center of duality where creation begins. Let us take again the example of materialistic and spiritual schools of thought, especially with respect to our mental and physical health. Both approaches offer methods to deal with health and wealth. Where do we find the truth? in the materialistic or spiritual school of thought? Which one offers the truth? I think that the truth is absolute in itself. But the way we conceptualize and approach it will never be absolute due to the limitations of the human mind, which needs concepts and models in order to be able to perceive reality. Both the materialistic and spiritual schools of thought offer half-truths. Both are subject to motivated reasoning and are therefore inherently biased. Today, most people tend towards spirituality. This is a very good thing because they are facing the other half-truth. Now, as we have both of the half-truths in our hands, we are free of indoctrination. Both materialistic science and New Age theories are mental constructs in themselves. In fact, there is nothing wrong with materialistic science in itself. The problem comes from model and business-oriented science. Even the New Age movement and its followers are becoming business-oriented, but by complementing each other. Both the materialistic science and spiritual movements offer a balance and enable us to approach closer to the truth. Both these opposite views balance each other just like yin and yang in Taoist philosophy. Even the best scientists in the world cannot avoid his/her motivated reasoning. This is normal as he has spent a lifetime supporting and working for his/her dogma. They have become slaves to their mentally constructed reality. They become so identified with their theories or dogmas that the ruin of their theories means the ruin of their careers. We should doubt many concepts or theories from both poles. For example, many spiritual books today take into consideration some doubtful concepts. We may wonder how these authors can be so sure. In the same way, we should doubt the materialistic view too. However, the subjective, human-related truth is neither absolute nor objective. We are not objects. If you feel that something relating to you is true, then it is true. Everything in the universe, from electrons, protons and molecules, to planets and galaxies spin, so we should spin too. We should spin between opposites relating to ideas, thoughts or anything else. Our primordial place is between them. Spinning between opposites creates motion, dynamism and life. Everything static is harmful to life. Only dynamism supports life. For instance, if you eat the same food for a long time it will become harmful. If you work in the same place for a long time, it will become harmful as well. How to understand awakening? Awakening is achieved when we understand and step into the power of present awareness. Being pure awareness in the now means to be the source and not the slave of thoughts. Present awareness enables us to resolve many mental conflicts. Being aware does not mean we need to take action to resolve problems, but only to become aware because then the problem resolves itself. For example, we experience the same situations in life repeatedly because we are not free to choose, even though we think we are. Or you may believe the universe or God keeps offering the same situation to you and you ask, why? You attract yourself subconsciously to those seemingly repeated situations because they resonate with your subconscious emotional baggage, of which you must become conscious and aware. It is the intelligent field of nature incarnated in body consciousness, which is the subconscious mind too, that tries to make you conscious. The hypothesis is that our subconscious is distributed throughout the body and brain because from TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, or Qigong, also spelled Kaikang, a powerful system of healing and energy medicine from China, the proper circulation of the life energy, Qi, through the body resolves many subconscious problems. In fact, you are on the right path and doing the right things because that is your path of awakening. The key to solutions in life is not to change your path, on the contrary, we may even need to reinforce the bad situation. The key is becoming aware of your path. Becoming aware in the now eases the path and shortens the time to awakening. It is said that the cause of suffering is craving and especially the craving for life to be other than it is, driven by the false self. This does not mean we must stop craving, instead, we must crave for more. but this time by being aware of the cravings and accepting them for what they are. Then problems resolve themselves. Present awareness is not something difficult to achieve, because everyone has flashes of present awareness every day. We simply need to cultivate them and can do that with techniques of meditation. In fact, present awareness is really a natural and primordial state of being that does not require relaxation or meditation techniques. Meditation techniques can facilitate the present state of being, but you do not have to push yourself forcibly into practices of meditation, but just let yourself be. You may need them temporarily until you achieve the natural and primordial state of being or awakening. Awakening seems a big word, but it is very easy to achieve. Awakening does not mean praying to God, because God has given you all the powers that you need in this world. You simply have to use them. Awakening does not mean to believe in the afterlife, because believing in the afterlife, in the future, pushes you away from living in the now and being in present awareness. The afterlife is a mystery. Being awakened means to be the source of infinite questions that arise from pure potentiality. Being awakened means to doubt everything. You are pure potentiality, just like the pure potentiality of the nothingness materialistic view, or cosmic consciousness spiritual view, which is the source of the universe. Being awakened does not mean to conform to any doctrine nor dogma. Conforming to any dogma restricts our ability to enjoy our God-given creative freedom. Being awakened means to feel the emptiness and the mystery. Emptiness does not mean nothingness, but pure potentiality or formlessness or the unborn, which is the source of the infinite forms of creative dimensions of life. Reality is a dynamic play, uncertain and empty. We must be formless too, in order to fit into this reality. Only awareness remains unchanged throughout our lives. Awakening does not mean to be free of the conditions of our lives. We depend on those conditions. However, because they are not permanent, but changing, then we are also free to change. This book is not an absolute truth. It simply aims to be a source of ideas and to approach the truth. This note gives us the freedom to write again from pure potentiality or creative freedom. Therefore, we are free to choose from the creative dimensions of the formlessness. Otherwise, we would be restricted to choose depending on our previous book, and this would mean that we choose in the present moment depending on the past. In other words, we have not become free from our past. Of course, this book should not be taken for granted because it simply aims to give ideas. But the two most important attributes of the natural way of living are your awareness and creativity. We will end this section with the Albert Einstein quote, "The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. Whosoever does not know it and can no longer wonder, no longer marvel, is as good as dead and his eyes are dimmed." Albert Einstein. Golden approach for rediscovering your true self. The golden approach is very easy to follow. It can be expressed in just 2 sentences. 1. Do what you like to do. When you do and enjoy something in the present moment, you are your true self. 2. Nobody can teach you how to rediscover your true self. You may be engaging in only a small percentage of what you like because you have been programmed to do what you do not like. But how to do what we like when we are obligated to do many things we do not, such as our job, in order to survive in the modern world? Yes, it is true that it is not easy to do what you like and stop doing what you do not like. The secret is to shift smoothly and gradually from doing what you do not like to doing what you like to do. Start by doing something you like or love, even if for just 10 minutes a day. The rest will unfold itself, because it is the intelligent field of nature that takes care of details. The intelligent field of nature should not be thought of as a personal being. It is the set of laws of nature and life that cannot be broken. In the future, you will find a new job that will be what you like to do. In general, doing what you like to do will also benefit your health. When you fall asleep, you are in the hands of the intelligent field of nature incarnated as body consciousness. It is body consciousness that repairs your repression of not doing what you like. When you repress something that you like to do emotionally, you send it to the subconscious realm, which resides holographically in the body. Body consciousness will repair the harmful effects of repression during sleep or daydreaming. Dreams are the language of body consciousness repairing the harmful physiological effects imposed by a repression of the mind. Body consciousness, prior to the evolution of the neocortex, created the brain in order to serve itself. But mental repression does the opposite by straining body consciousness. The idea of evolution was to balance between body consciousness and mind consciousness, but societal or human rules have overloaded the mind with repressions, which in turn exhaust body consciousness. The good things are not those things that serve mental egoic consciousness. Instead, good things are what serve body consciousness. Body consciousness is primary and mind consciousness secondary in evolution. Without well cared for body consciousness, mind consciousness cannot be healthy and sane. For instance, it is not rude to yawn, stretch or to stay in a position that you like. They are all good for body consciousness. Emotions are the language of body consciousness, so it is not rude to express emotions. The ancient Taoist and Buddhist masters understood that body consciousness is very important because they invented many practices that benefit the body. The superego imprinted by parental and societal programming can stop you from doing certain things that your true self wants you to do. Undoubtedly, people cannot be totally free by living in society or community, everything has a price. But just try to maximize doing what you like to do. I know that you have not yet rediscovered your true self totally because that is why you bought this book and other self-help books. Daydreaming, reading romantic novels, and watching too much TV indicate that you have not totally found your true self. But you are undoubtedly on the right path. Rediscovering the true self is not something that can be taught. Nobody can teach you to be your true self. You can only be reminded, just as this book helps to remind you. Thank you. Thank you for reading my book. I hope that you found this information valuable. I would be honored if you could please take a moment to give it a brief review on Amazon. Your review helps me better serve my readers and reach more people. Also, please feel free to email me with any questions or comments you might have at encourage@mail.com. Thank you again. Get my next book for free. Visit my website, www.inkbooks.com, and subscribe to my mailing list to get all of my new releases for free. I plan to write many short books over the coming years, and I'd love to repay you for taking an interest in my work by allowing you to access all of my future work at no charge. When each new book is released, I'll send you an email with a link to the free book. No strings attached and nothing for sale ever. Subscribe today at www.inkbooks.com. About the author. After being an engineer for 6 years and receiving many job offers in the field, my real job left me discontent and yearning for more, so I decided to seek the essential things in life, things that cannot be taken by death. It is my passion to devote myself to unbiased research of everything relating to the human experience, including physics, metaphysics, spiritualism, materialism, psychology, ancient philosophy, religion and more. Consciousness is eternal, and I want to view it through as many dimensions and worldviews as possible. One day I decided to share my ideas with the written word, and I've found that doing that made creativity explode within me. I think that by sharing our ideas and allowing creativity to express itself fully through us, we find our true bliss. It is the highest force of the universe and gives birth to all phenomena. I have found that the best way to learn is by sharing and teaching others. It's all about sharing what's in our hearts and connecting with one another. I have discovered through my own experience and research of scientific literature, that the greatest ideas come from the creativity and spirit of the simple people who dare to follow their dreams and intuition. We all have the freedom to share what we've discovered, and we empower others by doing so. With that said, I sincerely hope you enjoy the writings I share with you. In Knowledge.